Shout out to you, Kristen Gallagher 222. Love, lover, beloved. And you asked me a question on TikTok. Do you believe that we create our reality with our thoughts? Do you think people who experience going to hell when having near-death experiences are going there because they believe it exists or they need punished? Do you think we stay in the hell of our own creation when we die if we believe in it? Celestial Rising. Successful afternoon and prosperous night to all mirages watching this mindful message. It's your creative reflection, the creation of my own reflection, and mirroring what you already succeeded in. And we are back with another message and understand. We are back with another message and understand. If you choose to and you enjoy these videos, make sure you like, comment, subscribe for more divine messages. Let me take my charger out real quick because I'm tired of bouncing and all that. Okay. So, make sure. Okay. Now, for the first part, do I believe that we create our reality with our thoughts? Yes and no. I say, for one, I don't believe in anything because, excuse me, if I had to believe in anything, I'm basically being the lies that are everlasting in evolution. And as they constantly evolve, I'm falling in the transparency that isn't so bright. Because the light shines upon the truth that we are mimicking, our lives are able to reflect itself out loud, because the light bearing of the thoughts that we create are the reason why we make reasoning on what we think we should know a why in. Why do we have this? Why do we have that? Why is that like this? Why is that over there doing that? Why is this person doing that? We always have this questioning, and that's bright. The light is cutting on in our mind. But when you cut your mind off when it's time to go to bed, what is there to question? That's why questions don't matter when you go to bed at night, because everything is already answered. There's no need to question what you're answering in, and as the answer, what are you really in for real when there is nothing to question in your reality? And I don't mean this reality right here, because you may think it's real, but someone taught you about your reality. Do you know your own reality, even though it's not reality? Because when you go to bed, that to me, that's the knowing of reality. That creation of thought is already a thought that we observe creation thinking in. And what I mean is too, go watch the movie Inception. Go watch, what's that movie? What's that movie with the? What's the movie with the astronauts, dude? Movie with astronaut. No, not Gravity. I'm looking. I gotta find it. It's not The Martian. Interstellar. Found it. Thank you. So, when I say go watch those movies or those documentaries, because if you think about it, the only way to move into space, because the flow of space is the observation of the language God would speak in, but that's silent and it's cold. But that's the thing though, the truth is cold-hearted, because it's going to give it to you how it gives it to you, whether you like it or not. So you better be prepared and put on your jacket, because the truth will never scatter itself just for your pleasure. It doesn't matter. And that's exactly why too, they taught us about God so that we don't embody how creative we always were. We were always supposed to be the creative of this realm, and we lost that creativity because we wanted to learn from something outside of ourselves. And that's the thing. This is our revenge. That will answer the last part, but that's why I feel like this is the revenge of a system that we've never seen before. Because in order for extraterrestrial entities to manipulate and puppeteer humanity or society. It started from somewhere. That's why history had to be reset numerous amount of times. Realistically, every day is a reset. So there's no point of calendars, there's no point of dates, months, time. All these things we came up with. We constructed these things because we wanted to keep up with the time. Before we had language in general, how did you know what day it was without being in tune with the lunar cycle? All we cared about as far as time, that came with the appropriation of mimicking the sun cycle, the moon cycle, and the alignment of constellations or the astrological perspective in our lifestyle, gematria, stone tablets, us doing, you can call it a ritual, but us doing, just being grounded in nature. So being in tune with yourself and being able to alchemize the energy within your mindset, because we had these thoughts, but in order for us to communicate that truth, what did we do? Telekinesis, telepathy. That's when all these things that we have now was already destined from the past to be in the future currently. So before we even needed to drive cars, airplanes, before we even went to school, there was no point in learning. But we were constantly learning, but we had to dumb ourselves down to get right back to where we are. But here's what I mean. Dumbing ourselves down in the extent that in the past, we knew that we would be where we are today because that was the point of dreaming wide awake. But we told ourselves we had to make up a play. We had to become actors in this realm because if we don't, there's no point in living. So do you want to play a game? It's like Saul, for example. What do you think Saul saw to become this deceitful being of gaming on people's mind? That's the whole entire point of even coming down to this realm. We understood that coming into the game was going to find us, or no, we were going to find ourselves in the game so that we can understand what our alignment was being the whole entire time. We knew that in the future we would be in this detriment right now because we fell too deep into the game. So you're playing a game, and as you're on the controller, you're on the console, you're looking into what you're constantly putting emotion into, putting memory into. There are some people who go to bed thinking about a video game, for example. That's where their mind is placed into. That's their punishment, not in a bad way, but they're letting their purpose move away, they're letting their purpose move away by putting a distraction into a virtual world. Not only are you in a virtual world, but you're going into another virtual world. You're falling into hypnosis. So we hypnotize ourselves so much to where we had to make another skin color, we had to make another skin color that was supposed to be the opposing teammate. Any other being that looks like us in this costume is a part of our reflection spiritually, but physically we are in a racist society of beings that despise our character, our identity, just the way we live life. But these beings are showing covert racism and silent racism as well, because it's a practice of a virus that they have internalized so much to where their hatred overbears what they can't even question. Why do you despise our kind? Why is your focus on us? You don't like us, but you focus on what we do, as if your community has major issues that you brought upon yourselves. That's the big issue. We can go on and on all day, but I don't want to fall into that rabbit hole, so I'm gonna stop right there. Now the second question, do you think people, did I say no? I say no because, damn, that was a yes. I say no because, and the thing is to contradict everything, question everything. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but when I say that, I am lying in my truth. No, because the thoughts that we have come from a satellite system. And I say a satellite system because there are more than one moons. And the thing is too, these satellites are just devices which are their own luminary of plasma energy being frozen in space. So there is so high up, it looks like it's close by, but realistically you can't even reach for it unless you sold something that you hold dear to you. Now when you make it up there, you're able to see above the observation of the simulation, but a regular human being is not going up there. But once you get into the whole deeper aspect of science and you're understanding astrology and all these different space programs, not a space agency, then you understand why they're up there and what they're doing it for. Because that device up there is to trigger and the reminder of what you keep coming back to. That's why it's up there mocking you and laughing, even though you can't see it for what it is. But there's a whole community and a whole base and bases and infrastructures and cities and systems and life on the moon. We just don't see it that way. But that's where our future lies. But see, people not thinking like that because they think as if the moon is a real celestial object. Whole entire time they moved it in position to where now it controls the way we consume our health. To where now our health is altered by going against itself. To where now we fall into a lower way of thinking because that mood altering device is showing us what we have forgotten about in our higher self. Do you think people who experience going to hell, when having near-death experiences are going there because they believe it exists or they need punished? Both. Both, because the thing is too, if you're experiencing hell, you're already there. That's exactly why no one can ever send me to hell. And I used to be afraid of hearing that when I was younger and a little bit older, not as far as my 20s, but teenage years. When I would hear that, I didn't know how to interpret that fear because I didn't really think about what hell was. I just always heard about it, so I put fear into it, even though I didn't question what I was fearing. That's why I was stuck in their version of hell. When I understood how people think and act, it made sense on why they want you to be where they are in life. Because when you're destined for something more, when you are able to transcend society's expectations of where they're going in the afterlife, you don't fall into that trap. Because that's all hell and heaven can be. They're a trap. Even if there was a heaven, why would you want to be in a place that doesn't allow you to be free in your own nature? Who wants to work for infinity? Think about that. If we're sitting here singing and we're doing objectives for the Almighty, how long does that last? You're not getting paid for it. You're doing it for free. You're doing it every single day. You can't get tired, but what are you working for yourself for when you made it in life? Even in hell, that still would be heaven to a being that's in hell. So what's the difference when they're both illusions? And that's the thing. You can only feel the illusion by witnessing what you're living in. That's why everybody's not in the same dream, but we're collectively in a dream. Everyone's not in the same dream, but collectively, spiritually, we are witnessing the same dream. And that's the dreamer's interpretation of what a dream cannot dream about. And I say need to be punished. I wouldn't say need to be punished, but they're witnessing their own punishment. For example, we all came down here with an initiative, a prerogative on growing in a path that gets us to where we need to go after this life. We all know what that is, but we have to find that. So it's basically playing the game, Where's Waldo? Or Guess Who? Or I Spy. You're looking for things in life because you're witnessing what the answer is, but you don't have an answer for what you're looking for, so stop looking for it and let it come to you. Once you let the questions come to you, no being can get punished. We punish ourselves. So coming back to this realm is not a punishment, but it's a lesson. Because if you're coming here for a reason, what are you learning? And if you're not learning anything, how are you growing? And here's what I mean. Knowing in this life, everything that I tell myself, that I research, that I come back to, I know that it's all because I chose that way. The Almighty gave us choices. I don't believe in free will either. That's the illusion of believing in lies that evolved in evolution. Because we had the choice to be free in the will of fire, we had to intensify our choices by not making excuses, but wanting to be better than what we were the day before, the month before, the year before, and so on and so forth. We cannot let the past dictate where we're going in the future because currently we're not living that way. Currently, you have to be able to put yourself in heaven because that's where health may lie in, even though you're stuck in hell temporarily. But that's the play. We watch ourselves play in fabrications of leveling systems that have no way of imagery. So we never seen what hell looks like, nor heaven, but we observe in infinite realms of where our mind lays at. Because remember, you're not the body, but you're witnessing yourself in a body. Does that make you human? Does that qualify you as a human being? You can say so, But if you're not being human, what is a human being? That's the problem. How much light are you retaining to where you are able to transcend what you punish yourself in? Because if you don't see your punishments as a lesson to where you can overcome those lessons and move on to a certain lesson that you can also learn about your future self, to where you're constantly figuring out your sense of self, you're not going to experience a higher dimension that moves in unity and a higher quality of showing how high your standards been when you used to be in Earth. And that's the thing right there. We used to be in Earth, but we think as if we're being here now. Somebody taught you that at a young age, and you're following that program daily. That's mind control upon our parenting. But who did it to our parents, and so on and so forth? It started from somewhere, and that's the thing. We don't know. That's why it's called his story, because his story also came from her womb. And her womb was inverted through sex. Do you think we stay in alchemy? Do you think we stay in the hell of our own creation when we die if we believe in it? I don't think I know. I know for sure. When we die, we believe in it. For example, religion. Many people don't know that that's where their hell lays because they're preaching themselves about what God's supposed to tell them or what they learned, etc. But that's the illusionary effect, because when you're going through vibrational filtering, you're weaving out the downloads that you would never take upon your circuit boarding. Circuit boarding as far as the physical, because the physical makeup, is meant to create. It can create positives, it can create negatives. That's the thing. People who are in religion, people who follow politics, celebrities, actors, fashion, money, school, degrees, lust. I mean, these people, they're going to constantly be stuck. Even the materials in the world, people who follow labels, people who create lies, not even just lies, I would say a belief, an acceptance, a comfortable perception to lay upon, they're always going to sleep in what they're laying upon because they don't want to remove from their comfort. It's basically like being in a hotel room when you're traveling for your family or sports or just in general. You're in that hotel room and it's cold in the AM, but it feels so good. You don't want to get up. You wake up, you're like, damn, it's pretty chilly. This bed feel comfortable. And you know the nice, I'm talking about nice hotels, 5-star hotels, 4-star, whatever, like Hilton and all these other hotels that you may have witnessed. But when you lay in those beds, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Those beds be spacious. The pillows are they're big. Like for example, they're like these pillows, but not like these pillows. They're long. This one flat, but they're long, and they have a lot of fluff, and it just feels as if you're laying in a cloud. And when you lay there, that's the best type of sleep. I mean, it's cold. You got the covers tucked on you. You already took care of your hygiene. You already took care of work. I mean, you can think about where you are in life. You got the hotel fan running. It's quiet in the hallways. You're just in a whole different environment. That's what that feels like to lay upon lies. And you don't want to get yourself up. And if you don't gotta put an alarm on, how will you know you snooze through life? That's all people are doing in their experience of hell. That's why people who are attached to this realm, they'll become accustomed to being stuck to the divine tree. For the ones that watch Naruto Shippuden, by the way, and that is one of my favorite anime. I mean, it's, yeah. So the divine tree. Okay, I got the picture up. I'm about to show y'all real quick. Okay, right here. Yep, got it right here. Hopefully y'all can be able to see that. So that right there. Knowing that people are stuck, and basically this is an indication for people are stuck in their nature. Because they're stuck in their nature, how long has humanity been asleep to the spells they smile about? Because when you watch this episode, A lot of the ninja, which is basically us, a lot of them, when they go to bed at night, when they wake up, they enjoy what they see in life. They enjoy being here, to where they want to achieve everything, and then they can't let go of it. That's hell. You can have it all. You can have everything, but what will it cost you? That's it. That's the thing right there. How expensive is a simulation? If you were to buy this dimension, how much would it cost? We put a price tag on everything, and yet we don't understand that everything is free. So whose fault is that? That's why we have to let go of loving money. We gotta let go of loving delusions, because it did nothing for us but keep us asleep to the real problem. We don't see that the problem is our mindset. Our problem is letting go of what never mattered. Yes, getting all these accolades, getting all these different items, getting all these different things feels nice, and it feels as if your work didn't go unnoticed. Cool. But after a while, that's not what you're here for. It's literally just a distant memory. And that's the crazy part. When you align into your future observation, this whole entire life, from when you were in the womb till you perish, that's all it was. A memory, a reminder of what you thought you lived in. That was an experience. Want to go to another one? If you knew what your meaning and your purpose was. And that's the thing. If we have a creative mind, create your purpose. There is no purpose in life. You make one up. That's the point of you having freedom to do what you want with your thoughts. And that's the thing. People aren't thinking through attraction, because they can't attract the magnetism of the truth that never spoke a language. That's why when you sit, you understand what that truth could be, and what you question yourself asking. That's why asking things doesn't make sense when you just study the Akashic imprinting of what you infuse your database into alignment with, as far as your DNA, and as far as all the things that you've been practicing out loud or behind closed doors, all the research, all the things that you become mindful of, all the things that you express, what you're working on. That's exactly why every day is just a constant test of what you play with. You play with your mind. You're the alchemist. You are duality playing with itself. You're playing with your own mirroring of what you thought life was. And behind the mirror of life, when you go into the bathroom and you look at your mirror, what's behind that reflection? You don't know, because when you get out your bathroom, you're back into living what you think you see. But when you witness that bathroom, your reflection tells you what you worked on today. So what do you remind yourself of when you see that reflection every single day in the mirror that had no creativity till you put yourself in front of it? But wait, if you have no image, how apparent is your transparency if you're seeing it every single day? Even though what you see every single day is not the image of what you really look like. Have a great Nirvana Day, Divine Reflection.